Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Welcome, Hunter, Joe, and Jason. Thank you guys so much for joining. Let us know what stocks you're watching. This morning, we have the SPY creeping up a little bit. We actually have the SPY just under 419.50. We have Amazon running up a little bit into open. I know we have Palantir just consolidating a little bit, falling back a little bit. Let us know what stocks you're watching, and we will cover them. The market just opened, and we have Jason saying, hoping Apple jumps so I can sell a call. I sold a put last week, and now I have 100 shares at $134 each. So I like how you sold that put. It really puts the odds in your favor, and I think that's awesome. And I'm sure that position will do just fine over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, definitely. That's always good to get shares of Apple. They're a powerhouse, but as of today, so far they're kind of neutral. Looks like they're trying to go green here at open, but initially I saw some red candles it looked like out of Apple and out of the SPY. Yeah, SPY is starting to go red. You could see that SPY was kind of gapping up this morning though, heading into open. So we'll just have to see how it goes. As of right now, we are seeing some red coming into the market. Looks like Apple's going red. Let's go check out Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft is actually going green, so that's awesome to see. I know Boeing's been a pretty big mover lately, and they are also going to the downside. Yeah, but overall, the market's not moving too bad yet. Looks like it's actually a pretty slow open. I would kind of have expected a little bit more volatility, but overall, just a pretty slow morning, and looks like we're just seeing some slight red or just some slight consolidation here.
Alrighty, so we actually saw Pinterest fall a lot last week on bad earnings, or just a bad earnings, I guess you could say bad earnings reaction, because we saw a ton of great earnings last week. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and a lot of these stocks actually ended up falling. And we have Joe asking about Pinterest, and Pinterest is coming very close to that strong support level at $65 a share, and it looks like it's actually bouncing off this. So this might not be a bad dip buy sometime soon. It looks like it's actually running up right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it looks like a pretty good dip buy. Like you said, it looks like it's going to run up today after having such a bad past few days. I mean, ever since those earnings, they've just been, obviously they really tanked on earnings, and then they were just flat for a few days, kind of consolidating down here at that support. And I think that they're going to hold it. Looks like a pretty good trade, possibly back up to somewhere around $68, which is the high of a few days ago. If they break that, then definitely watch out for possibly like $69.70 all the way up to $70. I think that'll be a pretty good move there. And the 1,000 SMA is up somewhere between 70 and 71. So I think that'll be good. And the upper resistance is definitely around $70.
Tom, check out Disney. It's actually running up a lot. The market has only been open for like 2 or 3 minutes, and Disney's already up 1.5%. It's bouncing really well off of that support at like 181, 182. And I think we actually talked about this in like yesterday's video, or one of the videos from last week. And it's actually really running up, and its next resistance is like right around 190. But this one looks like it might be a runner.
Yeah, for sure. They had some pretty good news where they're going to open up. I can't remember. I don't think it's called Disney World, but it's the Disney
Disneyland.
park. Yeah, Disneyland. That's what it is. Disneyland out there in California, and that's a pretty big deal. I think that that's going to bring them some more money. But overall, I obviously still think like Disney Plus and their Florida one is a lot bigger. But we'll just have to see how this helps them. And obviously, it's been great news so far, helping Disney go back up. And let's go to that daily chart and let's see. Yeah, somewhere right around 190 is definitely good.
Alrighty, welcome Mason and Russ to the stream. Thank you guys so much for joining. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We have Russ asking about NOK and Uber, so let's check them out. NOK's running, Tom. They actually reported decent earnings last week, and it looks like they're finally running. I was looking at some like leaps on this one. I was just eyeing them out. I know we have a lot of people in the group who are huge fans of NOK, and these leaps are so cheap. I mean, the stock is very low price, so it makes sense. But you can pick up like a actually in the money call option that expires in January 2022 for only like $80.
Yeah, definitely. And man, like you said, it's so cheap. Recently, it's had a pretty good resistance around $5, which it also just bounced off of. It looks like, honestly, on the daily, it might go back up and break through that $5 level and start to run back up again. In the past, whenever GME and AMC was running, Nokia kind of followed them up and ran up to around $9.75, maybe somewhere around $10. But we'll have to see how this goes. If it can break $5, though, I think it'll be an amazing trade. And it looks like it's starting to pop up again even today. But man, if it breaks $5, I'll really be watching it.
Awesome, awesome. Then what about Uber? So Uber is not really doing anything this morning. I mean, the market's only been open for like 5 minutes, so it makes sense. But yeah, Uber actually fell off a lot on, what was that, Thursday? And it looks like they're bouncing off that support right at 54. So it doesn't look bad for a dip buy. I mean, it doesn't look amazing. What do you think?
Yeah, off of technicals, it is moving good off of my SMAs, which is pretty good. It's moving above those, kind of bouncing off the 1,000 and the 100 today. Hopefully, we can see continued movement today, or else I might change my mind about that. But on the daily, I mean, it's not looking too good. It honestly looks like it's starting to fall off, possibly break these supports around 55. So we'll just have to see what happens here over the next couple days. But we're sitting right around support. And honestly, like I said, it just looks like it's starting to possibly turn back over to the downside if we don't see continued momentum.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then, Tom, check out Mara this morning. It's really rocketing up. I know that cryptocurrencies had a pretty good weekend as usual, but yeah, Mara's actually rocketing
Wow.
past, what is that, like 38, and now it's in just right under $40. It has its high day right at like 39.68, but it's already up 7.5% today. So yeah, I know you're pulling up Bitcoin, but yeah, I mean, Mara's definitely running up, and we all know this one's a runner. Sometimes you see this thing up 15 or 20% on the day.
Yeah, for sure. And it's already up 7.5%. And Bitcoin is not even really up that much today yet. If we go look at that chart, honestly, it did kind of, it did kind of go up ever since like midnight last night. But overall, it's just hovering right around 59,000. Looks like it has a little double top up there. Hopefully that doesn't affect Mara if it can't break through. But overall, it looks like Mara is moving great. I know Ethereum moved well over the weekend. Mike, I know you were telling me about that before the stream started, but overall, it's just been a pretty great weekend for crypto. And I think that's why we see Mara and Riot kind of going back up. But I really like these two stocks. And I know that we've been doing some covered calls, or I mean, some cash secured puts on them. And it's actually been working pretty good now since crypto started to recover.
For sure. And then let's check out. I was looking at what was it, Mara, and then another one. I just forgot. Mara. I don't know. I'll come back to it. But with the next questions, we have Joe saying XPEV and NIO. So two EV stocks. How are they doing? I know XPEV, especially, just went parabolic. What was it, like a couple months ago? I'm pulling up the daily. It went from like $17 all the way up to 74, and it's really pulling back. Neo's pulling back as well, but like not as much as XPEV. So what are you thinking on these ones? Like, I like NIO for the long term. I'm not as bullish on XPEV, but it fell more than NIO, so maybe there's like a little bit less risk there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was honestly a little bit upset. We saw NIO kind of really gap up on Friday after falling last week pretty bad on earnings. And like I said, they gapped up. And this morning, now they're just moving terrible off of technicals and just coming to the downside, which was pretty unfortunate. It was starting to run up in pre-market. And I was really hoping to look at like NIO and Tesla possibly back to the upside this week, but hopefully we still can later on. And this is just some bad movement coming Monday morning. But overall, I was really hoping to see some good movement with that momentum on Friday, like a good continuation play to the upside, but we didn't see that. So looks like I'm just going to have to be patient and just wait it out on Neo and some of these EV stocks until they go down a little bit more.
Gotcha. So now I remember what I was about to do. So let's look at UPS. This thing has been going straight up for the past 5 days after they reported good earnings. I've been watching them for call credit spreads, and I'm glad I did not get in them because I might get in them now. So it's up around 3% this morning, and in the past 5 days, it went from, 178 all the way up to basically 210. So I would expect some sort of pullback soon, but I know that there's just so many buyers, so I wouldn't really buy puts, but I would rather like do some like call credit spreads or something like that. Like, I'm trying to see what the premiums look like on this thing, but what are your thoughts on this setup?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it looks pretty good. If we go back in history, the big thing is that we can see the last time that they really broke their high here around like 125, and they really gapped up. We can see how much movement they really had, and we're kind of at that stage where we just gapped up, and now we're just moving to the upside. And hopefully we don't kind of just go flat like it did here. Hopefully it does actually pull back so that we can get into some good plays to the downside. Because I know that we've all been looking for possibly puts on something like UPS or Home Depot or something like that to catch a pretty good move to the downside whenever it does happen. But at the same time, like you said, Mike, it's just these things keep going up. And like you said, you would have probably got stopped out today if you would have gotten those call credits. And honestly, like you said, it's up so much. You would think it has to come back. I think it's honestly going to be a good play here over the next few days to get some call credit spreads. We can see in the past, it really started to kind of come back down, or at least start to move flat once it had, maybe like a couple weeks after that initial gap up. And we're about a week there right now. So maybe give it a few days and see how the movement goes. We might see another gap, another big move to the upside, kind of like UPS had right there. So hopefully we don't see anything else like that. But I really do like the opportunity, though, for a pullback here over the next couple weeks, if that can happen. But man, it just seems like the overall market, the SPY and everything just keeps ripping up. So we'll have to see what happens. And the big stuff to me is that Powell and stuff, they keep pumping the market, and they keep reiterating that they're going to keep buying bonds and stuff like that. And I think it's just making investors more bullish on the market anyways. And honestly, I'm just waiting for Powell to come out with something bad about inflation or something to bring the market back down a little bit.
Alrighty, so welcome Miles, Joe, James, and Corbin, and then Justin. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. We have Russ asking about Moderna, so let's check it out. Moderna is actually running up a lot, and the market is basically just opened. It is already up 5% today. It hit highs of like $188.88, but it's still running up. We have IV rising with it. I'm trying to see if there's any major resistance levels. So actually, their all-time high is $189.26. So no, actually, they ran up in after hours. So their high in the daily is 189.26, but their high in after hours is actually 218.45. So either way, they have a really, really strong resistance at 190. If it breaks above that, this thing really has potential to run. The next strong resistance would be like right around 200. So it actually looks pretty good, and it's really running up right now. We have a lot of money flowing into it. One thing to watch out for is that they do have earnings pretty soon on May 6th.
Yeah, and I honestly really like the play. As long as it can break 190, it looks very good. And Moderna has been a pretty good stock for the vaccine and everything like that. So hopefully it can start to run up. And they keep saying that we're going to have to get another vaccine next year. So that's going to help these companies that still make these vaccines obviously continue to grow in the longer run. As long as people still have to get a vaccine like every year, kind of like the flu shot, which is kind of a bad situation though.
Alrighty, and then let's see. With the next question, we have Justin saying, or not question, but Justin saying, good morning, Justin. Thank you so much for joining the stream. And then we have Corbin saying, good morning, I am watching Snap and OSTK. So what is going on with Snapchat? I think we have a pretty interesting candle here at open. It looks like it tried to run up, but it looks like there's just a lot of selling pressure, and it actually reversed. It has a very short-term support at $61.60, and then after that, it has another support at 61. But the way it looks right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we pull back a little bit today.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And honestly, right as you said that, we just saw a huge move down on the 1 minute candle, and we're getting close to 61.50 now, maybe breaking that, heading more towards 61. So I don't know what to think. If we go to Snapchat's daily, it looks like they might start coming to the downside. Looks like they hit off resistance a few times. So if we don't see some good movement over the next few days, it looks like that Snapchat might start moving to the downside, especially if it can break like the 61 or $60 resistance. Then I'd be really, really careful. On the daily, it's just the setup's not looking the worst, but at the same time, it just has a lot of room to fall off here to the downside. And I'd say if it starts to go down, there's a huge support down here around $50.
All right, and then he's also asking about OSTK, and I actually like this setup for maybe a couple month hold or even a yearly hold. I think it's at a pretty good level, and it's kind of similar to ZM setup. It's actually pulled back a lot from its highs, and it's kind of holding support. So I don't think this is a bad setup for a couple months, but for a day trade, I'm just neutral on it.
Yeah, me too. And as far as a day trade goes, like you said, I'm overly neutral, but on the daily, it looks pretty good. They also just reported fantastic earnings and gapped up on those. So hopefully it can kind of break that high on that earnings day of around $90 over the next couple days. It could be a pretty good play and a good after earnings run up play, I should say. I think that would be the way to play this one. It ran up on earnings and then was very volatile, came right back down and then kind of went back up. So we'll just have to see what goes on. But I really do like it. It's possibly to the upside, like you said, and it's moving very well off of this trend line that I just posted on the chart as well. So good technical here to play off of. If it starts to go down and falls below this, then just cut the position.
Tom, let's check out Apple. It's running up as usual. It's up around 1% today. It actually has a lot of resistance overhead, but the way it looks right now, I think it looks pretty good for like even like a day trade to the upside. But like I said, there is resistance. We have resistance at like 133. After that, we have more resistance at 133.75. And then we have more resistance at like 134.25. And then right around like the 135 area. So I like the setup. Just be careful because there is a good amount of resistance overhead. What are your thoughts on this one? Not only for a day trade, but even for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, for the next couple weeks, I honestly really like it. As far as a day trade goes, I have to say I'm a little bit more neutral, like you said, with all these resistances coming up. I'm not saying that it won't go up. It's been moving very well off this bottom support around like 131, and that's just a great level there, and it's been moving great. But like you said, lots of resistances today, so I'm just neutral intraday. But over the next couple weeks, I'm honestly pretty bullish on them. I really like the way that they've been innovating on stuff, and honestly, their earnings went pretty good. Even though they moved to the downside, they had pretty good earnings. So I think that they will start to go back up over the next few weeks. Kind of like I was talking about with Overstock, how they had good earnings, but then still ended up going down like the day after and stuff like that. And we're just seeing crazy moves lately on earnings, unfortunately. But I think that some of these stocks that had good earnings will start to recover back up after going down from them.
All right, and then we have James saying, good morning, guys. What do you guys think of CLOV and ChargePoint? Have calls on both. So I'm not sure what your expiration is, but I like both of them. I don't love them. I know ChargePoint especially has a really high short float, so there's definitely potential for a short squeeze, and we all know how those can end up, like GameStop and AMC and all those. Now, ChargePoint doesn't have like a crazy high short float like GameStop did, but it definitely does have potential for a short squeeze. And they are in the EV sector, so I'm actually really eyeing that opportunity. Tom and I were actually talking about it a lot over the past couple weeks, so I like the setup. The technicals look a little iffy. It's already down 4% today, but it is a very volatile stock. They have support at like $20, and then they are in like a descending triangle pattern. They are making lower highs, which isn't good to see, but they do have that strong support at $20, so I like it. I don't love it. I think the biggest thing with this one will be timing. You don't want to grab any like weekly calls because you'll most likely lose on them. But if you get like a nice quality option that expires in a couple months, that's maybe in the money, preferably, I think that can end up working pretty good. Like I said, I think time's going to be the biggest problem with this one.
Yeah, and hopefully it can hold these supports. These lower highs are not looking good, like you said. And overall, these stocks are in a downwards momentum. Well, they've had a lot of downwards momentum, I should say, over the past few months, obviously. I mean, we've seen, these stocks obviously really start to tank, like CHPT, BLNK, Plug, and even Neo and other ones like that. So I'm really looking at this to the downside, possibly. Hopefully it can hold this SMA here, or else it's just not looking good. And there is a lot of short positions on this one, and like you said, that has a pretty high short float. So hopefully it can start to if it starts to go down, then maybe people will buy it up at support, and then maybe that'll finally be the final straw and get those shorts out of the positions. But man, it's just a crazy stock here. I'm really waiting for that short squeeze to happen on it, but like you said, you just have to time it correctly. And honestly, getting a couple months out, like you said, is probably the best play, or just get shares as it starts to go down and just average in.
All right, and then we have Joe and Matt asking about Pinterest support. So Pinterest is actually tanking, Tom. It's down only 1.5% in the day, but it tried to run up this morning, but the sellers just really just pressured it down. It's not looking too good. I see a strong support at $65, and we're getting very close to that level. But after 65, the next major one would be 60. Tom, what are some levels in between that? It looks like there is a little chop at like $62.50, but it's definitely not looking good right now.
Yeah, not looking good at all. And going back on the 180-day 15-minute, looks like we're like we're just now breaking these lows here around like 65.50, which is great to see. If we keep going back, looks like there's another low down here around 60. There is some movement also around $64. So watch out for that. We're kind of close to 64. That would be my next level watching intraday, but overall looks terrible on Pinterest. I mean, man, we look at this daily chart and it's still really starting to break below that $65 level, get really close to it anyways. And looks like if it starts to really break below there, very unfortunate for Pinterest, but they do have kind of a pretty good longer term support down here around $37. Not sure it's going to hit that. I have another longer term support around $50 to $52 if it starts to really go down, but we're still quite a ways away from there. But given how much it's went up over the past few years, don't be surprised if it pulls back and hits, 55 or 50 over the next couple months.
Alrighty, give me 1 second. I am just looking for some trades right now. With the next question we have, let's see. With the next question we have Joe asking about CCIV. So Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, CCIV is not too bad, I don't think. Let's go look at the chart. It is starting to go down today. Same thing with NIO and Tesla. I was hoping that they'd start to go up after those drops that they had, but let's go look at the max daily on it. Yeah, really starting to come back to the downside here, unfortunately. If it does come back down to support, possibly around like 17.55 and break below $20, I'm going to really look at it for like some cash secure puts and stuff like that. I think it would be awesome, especially if you could get really far out of the money, possibly somewhere down around like $15 or even like $13 or $14. I think that would be a great level to pick up some cash secure puts. Obviously, we're not targeting the stock to go down to that. We're just looking for the stock maybe to go down to like 17 or 16 so that we can grab those puts down there around $13 or $14. But I think it'll be an awesome play for the longer term overall. Just short term, not looking good out of the EV sector overall. Pretty bad movement today, especially below supports and below our technicals. I mean, we fell below this $21 support today, and then also we're moving below the 1,000 and the 100 SMA. So overall, not looking good. Let's go check out Tesla, and Tesla's also posting a pretty big red candle, but they are kind of holding this 690 support and coming back up intraday. So we'll just have to see what happens with Tesla, but overall, not a good day. I think it looks like that they could continue possibly to the downside.
All right, yeah, so let's talk more about Tesla. It is pulling back today, like you said. They do have a support at 690, but like, what are your thoughts on this one overall? I know we had Miles asking about it, and I'm sure a lot of other people are curious on this one too. So I was actually looking at Tesla over the weekend, and I saw a lot of interesting options activity. I saw a lot of leap calls being bought, but I also saw a lot of in the money puts being traded. So I think this one's like tough to say like in terms of like the analysis on unusual options activity. But what are your thoughts on this one, just movement wise? Like I'm not like fully blown like bearish on it, but at the same time I'm not super bullish right now. I'm sure they'll do fine over the long term, but like, what are your thoughts on it for like this week and maybe next week?
Yeah, for the next 2 weeks, unfortunately, I'm pretty bearish on it, and I know a lot of people might not want to hear that, that type of estimate right there, that type of position being taken. But I am bearish on it. It fell below the 700 support today. If we break back above that pretty significantly over the next couple of days, then I'll obviously have to change my mind around. But it looks like we're going to be going to the downside here now. On the daily chart, it's also not looking good on the daily below $700. I don't like it. It's just a very bad level to me if we stay below this. Honestly, if as long as we're below there, I'll just keep playing some of these things to the downside. I won't play Tesla, but I'll play NIO and some of the others. It's just not looking good. Like you said, you saw some very interesting positions coming through. I don't know which ones you were looking at, but overall, I mean, it's just a pretty interesting setup. It's kind of right at that $700 support, and people are kind of guessing, is it going down? Is it going up? Nobody really knows, but for the longer term, I love Tesla. I think it's definitely going to go up, but in the short term, over the next couple weeks, honestly, I'm going to be looking at it to the downside. Looks like it's had a lot of chop, and it's just not moving well, I think, off this $700 level. As we broke above it, I was looking for a continuation today, and we did not get that. So now I think I'm going to go bearish on it.
All right, and then let's check out Home Depot. This is the stock that basically only goes up, and they actually broke all-time highs at 330 right now, and they actually just got a increased price target from Barclays. to 350. So this thing's really running. And I know that LB or lumber, I should say, has really been running up. Tom, if you want to look at lumber futures slash LBS, they are just exploding. I'm sure you guys already heard about how lumber prices are just exploding, and it's causing a lot of issues right now. But either way, I'm curious to see if Home Depot is like behind this, or like how this situation is affecting them. So if some of you guys know more about this situation, let us know in the live chat. But I would expect this situation to help Home Depot. You know what I mean? Like, I know lumber prices are literally just exploding. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But either way, Home Depot stock is really rallying. They have a lot of volume and momentum right now too.
Yeah, for sure. I love this break right now. Like you said, this lumber situation is honestly really insane. I mean, man, yeah, definitely let us know in the comments what you think about lumber right now. But I think it'll definitely help Home Depot and some of these stocks, especially in the short term, like we're seeing here on the chart, up 2% today, breaking those all-time highs, which is just awesome. And man, I've seen articles saying that houses are costing $37,000 extra right now because of these extra lumber costs. And I've been seeing all these memes where like a car will get hit by a piece of wood and they're like, oh, I'm not going to take out insurance on the car. I'm just going to go sell the wood and make my money back. And it's just, funny memes like that. But overall, just a crazy situation with lumber. Honestly, crazy for the housing market as well. I'm kind of getting worried here. We already have housing prices pretty high. Now new housing prices are just astronomical, being, like I said, possibly up $37,000 just from the lumber cost alone. And I mean, man, the price of housing right now is up a lot in its own, let alone just from the lumber. So there's just definitely a lot going on. Definitely watch out, I think, for the housing market, maybe for some of those real estate stocks as well. But great movement out of Home Depot today. I wonder how Lowe's is looking, LOW. Yeah, they even gapped up today, having a nice 2% move just about themselves.
Sounds great. So let's see what some of these other questions we have. Let's see. Welcome Muscle to the stream. We have Muscle saying Moderna is a good hold. Still long AMD, Nvidia, and Apple. Bought Ethereum crypto a few months ago and looked at it today. Whoa, yeah, it is exploding. Tom, let's pull up that Ethereum chart. I know a lot of people were talking about it over the weekend. It's just popping, and it's awesome to see. So Ethereum, let's see what it's at right now. I know Tom's going to pull it up. But yeah, it's really popping, and it's awesome to see that they are still holding. So what's it at right now? Like 30, just under 32. You could you could say like 31.20. So that's awesome to see. Tom, do you have any like levels or any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, on the 1 minute chart, it looks like there's a pretty good support here around $3,080 on ETH. Let's go check out the longer term 15-minute again so I can get some more good levels. But looks like we did start to take a dip this morning. It hit like $32,000. That might pose as a pretty good resistance today. We'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully it can start to move back up and retest 32,000. I see a pretty good support all the way down here around 29,000. 2,950, I should say, and right around 3,000. So just be careful. Looks like we are starting to have a little bit of an intraday pullback here, but if we do start to go up, watch for it to break above 3,200. I think that'll be an awesome level.
Alrighty, with some of these next questions, we have a lot of people asking about, let's see, Pinterest. So let's take a look at Pinterest. We have Joe asking about it a lot. What do you think? I know that right now it is down around 1.6%. It's actually getting very close to that low of day. So it has support at like $65.24, and then after that at 65. But it's really not looking good. And I think that this would be a pretty good setup for some cash secured puts. Even though IV isn't too high, the stock did fall a lot. And some of these put premiums are actually pretty high. So if we go to like the 65 strike put for May 7th, over like the past 5 days, it went from lows of 56 all the way to right now at like 138. So do you have any extra thoughts on this one? Because it is getting pretty close to that low a day.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely putting an alert here at $65 on Pinterest. I think that's going to be an awesome level for it to go down below. On the daily chart, it looks terrible. They just gapped down a few days ago. Now it looks like they're going to break this support and just look like it just honestly looks like they're just going to gap down again. It's not looking good for Pinterest and AMD intraday. Some of these stocks, it's just looking terrible today. I don't know what to say about it. A lot of them are starting to pull back. And overall, I think that's going to hurt the overall market. I mean, if we go look at SPY, I could almost, yeah, I mean, SPY was posting red, but now it's starting to go green again. But overall, I think that over the next couple of days that will affect the market if we keep seeing these types of pullbacks. But not looking good on Pinterest. I'm really not liking it below these support levels. It's getting really close to 65, and man, it's a big runner today to the downside. When I look at that daily chart, honestly, it looks like a pretty bad setup in my opinion. If it does not hold this support, it just looks like it's going to really tank off.
Sounds great. And then Tom, let's check out AMD. I was actually looking at a lot of these chip makers on Friday. I really wanted to do some cash secured puts, but I feel like I just want to wait for a little bit of a pullback to get some better premiums. But I was looking especially at AMD and just like at some different semiconductor ETFs. But back on the topic of AMD, what are your thoughts on this one? I know that they are tanking off pretty good actually. They ran up on earnings initially, but ever since then, like even though they reported decent earnings, they've been falling off. IV is starting to rise, but like, what are your thoughts on this one? Because I know that like when it gets in like these like downtrend trends, you can say, or like stages, you know, sometimes these downtrends last for like a month or so. Like if we look back on like in like February, even if we look back in like what is that like October, like around there, October to like November, and even from what is that September to so like the whole month of September. So like, what are your thoughts on this one? Because to me it looks like we're in one of those stages where it's struggling to run up.
Yeah, it almost looks like a little head and shoulders setup here, with this being the first shoulder, this being the head, and then this being the second shoulder over here at $90 again. But overall, looks pretty bearish here to the downside. Actually, I really like AMD for the longer run with everything that they do, being a semiconductor stock, and obviously they make the CPUs and the GPUs, which are awesome. But they just fell below the $80 support also, which is not a good sign intraday. But overall, I do like them to the upside over the next year to 2 years. But right now it's not looking good. We have had that chip shortage, and honestly they had great earnings, but now they're moving to the downside, and they're also moving pretty significantly below some of these like longer term trend lines I have drawn on my chart. So hopefully it doesn't keep going down. If it really falls below like $75, then I'm really going to look at it even more to the downside. It's hit off of that one about 4 to 5 times over the past few years. And if you were going to get some cash secure puts, somewhere around 75 or a little bit below that might be an awesome level. But at the same time, I mean, AMD is up so much over the past few years. I mean, since 2018, AMD was around $10. Now it's around $100. It hit highs around 100. So that's around 1,000% gain, guys, over just 2 to 3 years. And that's pretty significant. So just don't be surprised if we see pullbacks here, because if we break this bottom support around 75, I mean, AMD could possibly come back to $60, no problem. And I mean, honestly, like looking at some charts and given like what we've seen in the past, like in 2000, 2008 and other times, and I'm not saying that we're going to have a huge market crash like that or anything, but especially with like these chip shortages and some of these different catalysts going on, I think we could easily see maybe some drops out of some of these stocks here over the next couple months. And I think it might be pretty significant if we see them break these supports pretty well.
Gotcha. I mean, the main thing I'm looking for are just more opportunities for short puts. Like I like the stock for the long term. And if it does fall, I think that would present a good opportunity to sell some puts on it, maybe grab up some shares. And if it doesn't, then oh well, you know what I mean? Then there's just no opportunity. But either way, I have my eyes on it. Ideally, I would like to see it down, like for cash secured puts, like probably like around like 75 or 70. I think that would be a pretty good level. And we're getting pretty close, What was it, like a month or, like a couple months ago, this thing was almost at $100. So either way, I definitely have my eyes on it, and it's definitely pulling back right now. And then we have saying, just lost all of my Friday profit from Tesla. That's not good. Let's check out Tesla. What's it doing this morning? It is down around 2%. Looks like it's bouncing off that 690 support pretty well. So it looks like it's a lot more like choppy movement than anything else. Is it coming close to your, the 1,000 SMA?
Yeah, it actually is starting to move right back above that intraday, which is great. I love that bounce off 690, and we're starting to come back up to around $700 again, and we can see it hit that on Friday twice actually, and move pretty well off that. So if we can break above 700, it would be awesome. I think intraday we might hit that and bounce down, so we'll have to see what happens. But overall, a very choppy movement this morning. I really like it off that 690 support though. I think that was a great bounce there. If you were a scalper, that could have been an awesome area given what we saw on the 1 minute on Friday over here at that level also. But as of right now, I think I'm just going to be more neutral on it until it breaks above 700, unless we start to see it, come back down below 690 or something like that.
Alrighty, and then let's see. So we have Matthew saying a big candle on the Dow Jones for the 1 hour chart. So let's take a look at it. YM futures, like you have pulled up. Wow, it actually is. It's kind of pulling back a little bit right now. But overall, it's definitely green on the day. How's the SPY looking like? Looks like just a lot of chop, you can say.
Yeah, lots of chop on the SPY.
Yeah,
Definitely choppy, coming up to 419.80, and then just pulling back on the day. Just not too much movement overall. Pretty flat, actually. I don't know what to think. I think the SPY was trying to break out, but then it saw that a lot of these stocks like AMD and others are starting to pull back. So obviously, I think that with some of these bigger tech stocks and stuff coming down, I think that it's just going to pull SPY and others to the downside with it.
Gotcha. And then let's check out Twitter. I was actually looking at this one on Friday as well. It's actually pulling back a lot. It tanked last week off of earnings, and it's still coming down. It looks like they have a pretty strong support at like $53. So watch that level for like maybe a bounce. But I was actually maybe looking at some cash secured puts on it. I would like the premiums to rise a bit more though.
Yeah, for sure. And Twitter is just not looking good overall. Another stock that could possibly pull down the SPY. And if we go look at all these, wow, Facebook had a very interesting morning. I don't know what to look at this stock. Look at how volatile this was. I thought it was going to be kind of like Twitter, but wow, I mean, Facebook opened at around 328, pulled all the way back to 324, and then ran all the way back up to 328. Very volatile day out of that one. But yeah, Twitter overall not looking good, breaking below support. I have another one around 53.75. So I don't know what to think about it. Looks like it is starting to maybe trying to come back up here intraday. So we'll have to see what goes on with it. I think if it comes back up above 54.50 intraday, we might see a pretty good pullback to the upside here.
All right, and then we have Muscle saying, you guys are awesome. Great unbiased analysis. Let's share and grow this channel. Thank you so much, Muscle. Thank you so much for the support. And yeah, guys, that'd be awesome if you guys shared the channel. And feel free to text Stocked Up to 39970. We'll be sending out market updates and information like that through the phone number. But thank you guys so much for being here. Let us know what stocks you're watching, and Tom and I will cover them. And then we have Chris saying, can you talk about your thoughts on holding T for a while? So let's check it out, Tom. They popped up on good earnings, then they started to pull back a little bit, but then the buyers brought it all the way back up to like 31.70, you can say. Technicals, it looks pretty good in my opinion. The options are very well priced. It does have a strong resistance at 32, and it's a very similar setup in my opinion to Bank of America on November 9th of 2020. It started to run up, I believe, off of good earnings, and it was just due to pop back up. So in my opinion, it is a very similar situation. Oh no, it wasn't earnings for Bank of America on November 9th, but either way, they started to pop up on November 9th, and then it was the start of a 6-month uptrend or so. So in my opinion, T looks pretty similar to that. Of course, always trust your own gut, but the situation looks pretty good, the setup, and then especially because the options are so well priced, I feel like it'll do just fine. And then we have Click asking about NIO. Let's check it out. It is up around almost 3% on the day. It's starting to pop back up. We all know how NIO is like intraday. Like sometimes we'll see this thing up 5 or 10%. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's honestly looking pretty good. Hopefully it can start to come back up today. It did have a pretty good early morning dip, but it held that 1,000 SMA on the 1 minute pretty well, bounced off of it like 3 or 4 times actually. Now it's just rocketing up, coming up above $41 even. And I was looking for this one to continue up off of Friday's good movement. So it's awesome to see it hold this red 1000 SMA. Just great movement overall. Hopefully it can break this high of Friday around 41.25. I think it'll be great movement. And man, like I said, I even posted this one today in our in my swing update, I think, where I said I was really watching NIO and some other ones, but man, let's hope that it can break 41.25. Hopefully it doesn't get rejected there, but this is a lot of upwards movement right now. So, but we can see how much upwards movement it had on Friday. So watch out. If it breaks 41.25, I think it could definitely keep running. But as of right now, just be careful because we're approaching that zone.
All right, and then I'm just checking in on Apple. It looks like they are actually breaking their high of day right now. They're up around 1.5%, and they're getting very close to that next resistance at like 133.75. So $133.75. It looks pretty good. It's actually running up a little bit with NIO. Let me check out some of the other resistance levels. So, like I said earlier, it does have a lot of overhead resistance, a lot of chop on its chart, but I think it looks pretty good right now. Like for like a couple, maybe like a couple day or like a couple week swing. Doesn't look bad. They also have that dividend pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that. But I don't think it looks bad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it looks bad at all. I mean, Apple's always a pretty good stock to get. Intraday, it's just stair stepping to the upside. Hopefully, it can keep going up. Tesla's around its $700 resistance right now, so that might be a factor for the overall market. Maybe if Tesla starts going down, it'll pull these other ones down. But I really think Apple looks great today. It's moving well off the SMAs on the 1 minute, also moving well above them actually for the first time in the past few days. So we might see some good movement back to the upside here off my technicals. It's honestly looking pretty good.
All right, let's see what some of these other questions look like. We have Matthew saying, why is the Dow Jones making such a big upside move on the 1 hour candle? So I'm not seeing any major news off of this. I'm going to do another scan right here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see any major news off of it. I think it's just the market being the market. But looking at the Dow, I'm going to pull up some of the largest movers right now. So for the Dow, we really have Apple running up, AMGN, UNH, Home Depot's playing a big role into this one, IBM, Microsoft, UNH, Walmart, Walgreens, CVX, they're all up. So it just looks like a lot of the Dow stocks are running up right now. Really the only two that are down are like CRM, Intel, and I guess you can say HON, but that's only down like 0.1%. So either way, it just looks like there's a lot of green across a lot of Dow stocks right now, especially AMGN, Apple, and Home Depot.
Also, Disney is up a lot too. That was another big one today. Also, with that park news, and man, just a good day for the Dow overall. I mean, good stuff to see. I wonder how Caterpillar's looking. They've been moving pretty well, and they're actually going down. But this is another stock that could get affected by this lumber problem. Obviously, Caterpillar, they make a lot of equipment and stuff like that for building houses, and if the building of houses slows because of the price of lumber, that could obviously affect Caterpillar pretty big, I think, in the shorter term.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we're just in like a very interesting situation, and I'm curious to know more about how Home Depot and Lowe's are, or how they will be affected with these crazy lumber prices. I would think it would be in a good way looking at both of their charts, like especially Home Depot. Like it just seems like every day this thing just shoots up, and even when it pulls back, it's always holding support. So I'm very curious to. I'm gonna dive deeper into that topic a little bit.
It's got to definitely help them, you would think, because they're able to sell their lumber for a lot more now. So it's definitely got to be a good deal for them. But the only problem is that in the longer run, now they're up a lot because of probably those lumber prices. And if the lumber prices start to crash now, I mean, is Home Depot and these stocks going to crash? I mean, probably so, given how much they've ran up this year.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting situation. I'm gonna analyze the situation a little bit more, but then we have Click saying, could you guys please make a video about options like straddle, strangle, butterfly, and iron condor, probably iron fly, maybe. Either way, we actually have a ton of videos on that. So on the main channel, if you just like search like iron condor or straddle, especially straddle, iron condor, credit spreads. We have a ton of videos on that. I can definitely make some new ones, but I would really encourage you to check back on some of the videos we already made like a couple months ago. There's quite a few of them, so definitely check that out. And then we have Oliver saying, what do you guys think of eBay? Looks like it's bouncing back to the upside. So let's check out EBAY. It's up around 2%. They have resistance right around like 57. They fell on earnings last week, but it definitely is bouncing. I think this is a pretty good catch, Oliver. If we look back in their past, it looks like anytime they have these big drops, they almost always remake those losses and end up trending up. So I actually like the setup. IV is extremely low right now. It's actually like, I think it's at its lowest point in the past year. So that means you could get some pretty good deals on some of these calls. I actually like the setup. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty decent. It's also moving off of a pretty good trend line also. So that's another good indicator as well. And overall, good movement over the past couple of days. Just be careful if it hits resistance and really starts to tank off. Just don't, obviously you're going to have to cut your position then because it could keep going down. We'll just have to see what happens. That gap down on earnings was pretty bad, but we are seeing some other ones like Apple, for example, start to recover back up after they gap down on earnings or after, they fell a couple days after earnings, I should say. But we are seeing these stocks start to recover. So hopefully eBay can kind of recover up with them. And it looks like they are pretty nicely today.
Alrighty, so yeah, guys, let us know what stocks you're watching, and we will cover them. We have Sylvia saying BTX to the downside. Let's check it out. Wow, this one's actually really running, Tom. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it. So it's up around 33% today. Has a ton of relative volume over, what is that, like the past week or so. It's really running up. It went from, what is that, like $5 all the way up to $80.67. I can definitely see it to the downside. I haven't even heard of this stock till now, so I'm not sure why they are running up. Let me check the news. It looks like so they got halted today. So yeah, Tom, do you want to dig deep into the technicals, and I'll look to see what's going on with this one?
Yeah, definitely. There's a pretty good support here around $60 intraday. Looks like it hit that and then ran back up to the upside. Hopefully it can keep moving back up after that. There's obviously some big catalyst here that made it go from like 60 to 90 and then back down very quickly. We'll find it, but overall looking great. I really like it off the $55 to $60 support here over the past couple days. Looks pretty good. On the daily though, you can see how much it's ran over the past few months. I mean, man, we moved from lows of around like $3 or $4 all the way up to $70, $80 now today. So this is just honestly insane movement. Don't know what to think about it. Honestly, it says it's a Brooklyn Immunotherapeutics company. So we're going to have to see, what they do. It looks like they make some type of drug or some type of something like that. So they're going to have some type of catalyst, probably like with the FDA or with somebody who makes the drugs or something like that. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing is what type of movement we see over the next couple hours. If we can hold this $60 support, it'll be a pretty good move then back to the upside. But if we see it break below that, it's going to be unfortunate and it might start to come back down. And unfortunately, it's just so volatile that we just don't even know, which way it's going to keep continuing. But looking at the 1 minute chart, it honestly is starting to look a little bit bearish to me in my eyes, just my opinion, but looks like we're going to start coming down here over the next few minutes, maybe for like the next hour. But like I said, if we can hold $60, I think it'll be a pretty good move to the upside.
All right, so BTX, Tom, this is a pretty interesting scenario. So one, they acquired an exclusive license for the mRNA gene editing and cell therapies technology. So they acquired that license. Then they have a drug in development. And then on top of that, Wall Street Bets is behind this, Tom. So it's actually the main thing is that it's a short squeeze and it's a biotech. So, I mean, this is a pretty crazy situation here. And it kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like some of these biotechs have super high short floats, and when these hedge funds get way too greedy, sometimes they get squeezed really bad, and Wall Street Bets strikes again. So wow, just watch out for this one. Just brief reminder is remember when GameStop and AMC and all these other stocks ran up, they ended up pulling back a lot. So just be careful. I know it is in the squeeze stage, but just be careful. It went from $5 all the way up to what was that, 80 in like a week or two. So just be careful there. But it looks like looks like it has a lot of buying activity, Tom, and it actually had two good catalysts plus that short squeeze.
Yeah, that's actually pretty insane, especially with the short squeeze, and especially since they got that gene editing license from Moderna. That's pretty insane. I mean, I've heard Kathy Wood talk crazy things about this gene editing stuff over the next few years, saying that there's going to be huge growth in those sectors and stuff. And she even has her own genomics stock. If you look up ARKG, that's a pretty good ETF for stocks like this. So that looks like it's going to be a pretty good longer term stock. But in the short term, crazy movements. I don't know what to think. I'm not sure if it's worth getting shares at this price or not for the longer term, given how much it moved. But honestly, great catalyst, and watch for it to just continue going up on BTX. And it looks like it's moving well off that 60 support, starting to go back up here intraday over the past few minutes.
Alrighty, and then let's see. We have Trevor saying Pins keeps bouncing off the 65 support, needs the ship to sink. So let's check it out. PINS. It is bouncing off that 65 support. Now it's only down around 1% today. Yeah, it definitely is bouncing off that. It looks like there's a lot of buyers coming in at these levels. Yeah, it honestly, it looks a little bit rough if you are trading puts on it. I don't know. I don't know, Tom. I think it's a little bit of a rough setup.
Yeah, it's hard to say because it was going down so much, breaking a lot of indicators to the downside, and then it just came right back up. We're seeing stocks like Tesla today starting to recover back up also. It's bouncing right off this $700 support right now. So we're going to have to see how this looks for the overall market, but just not looking good on some of these setups, especially with some of these stocks like Pinterest, Facebook, and other ones. Let's go check out Facebook again. You can see how volatile they were this morning, and then even they recovered all the way back up. So maybe Pinterest will recover up today like a lot of these other stocks have.
Very interesting. Let's check in on the SPY again. Let's see how it's doing. I know that there was a lot of chop earlier in the day. Looks like we're getting closer to that high of day, right around $419.84. IV is dropping. So, I don't know. Looks like there's still just a lot of chop right now. Let's take a look at the QQQ. It's actually that one's actually closer to its high of day. QQQ, it's right under $340. And then, so yeah, QQQ. And then the next one, we have DIA, which is the Dow. So it's actually pulling back a lot, Tom. Look at this. It actually looks like it might touch that 341 support.
Yeah, definitely. And that support is also right around the 100 SMA. So hopefully it can hold that today. Not looking good, like you said. Honestly, it's just looking pretty bearish. And we have seen a lot of stocks going down today. I mean, Caterpillar, I think, was red. Let's go check them out. Yeah, Caterpillar's red today also. So yeah, there's just a lot of Dow stocks that initially were going up, but it seems like now we're starting to pull back on them quite a bit and just not looking good. I think if we really see a lot of red candles here and we break significantly below like 341.20 or 341.25, then I think we're going to see a lot more movement to the downside. But if this looks like really choppy right now, and overall it's slow, kind of like the Dow. The Dow is, usually a little slower than most things, and it looks like right now we've moved past that initial like opening move, and it just looks like we're just getting slow and choppy now in the middle of the day.
All right, and Tom, let's do a check in on Uber. It's actually running up around 2.5% today, but I just saw something pretty interesting. So I saw 5,000 calls traded for the Uber $55.50 calls for May 7th, and Uber is running up. These calls were filled basically at market open for like around $225 each, and right now they're sitting right around $260 almost. So we might see a little bit more movement out of this one. I think it's a pretty bullish sign to see this call activity.
Yeah, for sure. And once it popped above that high of Friday around like 55.70, I mean, it's just been moving great to the upside. Look for a possible upper resistance around 56.65, and that's still around, we're still around 60 to 50 cents away from that right now. So still potentially a lot of movement, I think. The high of, let's see, last Thursday was like 59.22. So over the past couple days, it hit, all the way up around 58, 59. So honestly, I think it could have a lot of movement today. If we go look at that daily chart, sometimes whenever Uber falls, you can see it starts to recover with quite a few green candles after. And we're on the second green candle right now, and I would not be surprised if we saw a continuation out of this either today or tomorrow even. And in the past, like I said, whenever this stock goes down, sometimes it just has these green candles pretty significantly back to the upside.
All right, and then let's also check in on Walmart. It's actually breaking its high of day right now. It's up around 1.5% today. It has a pretty strong resistance around $142.50. And in my opinion, it has a lot of potential to continue up. And Walmart, for some reason, actually has a really high percent short float.
Yeah, that is weird. Honestly, a short float out of Walmart. I mean, who's shorting Walmart, especially with it moving the way it is right now? I mean, this is a pretty good stock for the longer term. Obviously, it does have some dips. We see it dip here and dip here like it did over the past few months. But honestly, for the longer run, it always seems like it recovers and just holds its value and goes back up because it is one of those good value stocks. And obviously, Walmart's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it is only valued at like $141 a share right now, which honestly is not too high for Walmart. Its high was like 153 a couple weeks ago. And if we go look at that max weekly chart, I mean, man, Walmart, all it does in the longer run is just go straight up. So definitely watch out. I think it will start to recover here. I love this setup on the daily. And I know that we were trading this one last week, and it's too bad it had that one day that ruined our timing on it, or else it could have been a pretty good trade for us.
Interesting. So yeah, their short float is like 25%, which is pretty high, especially for a stock like Walmart. And then we have Joe asking about Fold and OCGN. So let's check it out. FOLD. It is up around 6.5% today. They do have earnings pretty soon. I don't think this one looks bad. I think it's at a pretty good level right now. Obviously, it's not like amazing, but I think it's at a pretty good level, especially on the daily chart. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't really know what to think. It's a pretty low price stock. It is a therapeutic stock, but it is starting to move here. I think if it can break above the intra or the pre-market high of around 1065, I think it'll be a pretty good trade to the upside. But overall on the daily, it looks like it's trying to come back up here. I just don't know what to think. It had that huge gap down, but it is holding the supports pretty well, so it might start to move back up. And honestly, it's not the worst setup I've seen for a pretty low price therapeutic stock.
For sure. And then OCGN, what do you think about that one?
Now, yeah, we've been talking about this one quite a bit lately, and this one's really running today. Pretty nice, up 21%. I mean, man, it just continues to go up. A lot of people have been talking about this one, and it just continues to break those highs and go up. Honestly, a pretty good setup here, pretty good stock. Keep watching it. It looks like it just keeps moving up and up. And didn't they do something with diabetes, Mike?
I believe so. There have been so many of these
Yeah.
biotechs running up lately. So I don't really remember. We don't really focus on like these like crazy stocks too much, but I'm sure there is some catalyst with the way they have been moving. Let us know, Joe, what's going on with this one. And then we have Vicky asking about GAP. Let's I don't know. I don't see a ticker for GAP. We have Joe asking about SLCA. This one's actually down a lot today, Tom. Almost basically around 11%. Let me check out their longer term chart. SLCA. And the long term chart looks a little scary. Not gonna lie. I wouldn't hold this one for the long term. For the short term, it doesn't look bad for like maybe like a day trade to the downside. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would not be holding this one for the longer term either. If anything, I would just play puts or short this really quickly to the downside. That would be all I did with this one. Just not looking good here. I don't know what they do fundamentally, and if they do something fundamentally that's really good, and if they're possibly turning around as a company or something, it could be a good play. But overall, just keep in mind it's really down quite a bit, and it's going to be very, very risky if you're holding this one long term.
All right, and then let's see what else is moving. So we actually have Twitter continuing down almost 3.5% today. So it doesn't look good at all. Yeah, this one's looking a little bit rough. I think I'm gonna probably do some cash secured puts on it, but only if it continues down more. Like, cause I would rather hold a lot of other stocks besides Twitter for the long term. So I would only sell some puts on this one if it was like an amazing deal. But it's definitely on my watch list. And then we have CCL. This one is up around 1% today. So we actually have China asking about CCL. So with CCL and airlines and cruise lines, I'm not sure if you saw the video from Saturday, but I saw someone put like $40 million into AAL call options. So I actually really like that setup. And cruise lines and airlines sometimes like move together. So even with the setup on CCL, I like it. I know it is pretty risky, but I like the setup. What do you think?
Yeah, and one good thing here is that CCL did post higher highs right here and also higher lows, which is a pretty good setup, especially on the daily chart. It really held that $25 level nicely after holding the $23 level just a few days earlier. So, or a few weeks earlier, I should say. I think that that's awesome to see higher lows there, pretty good technicals. Also moving well above the 100 SMA still. I just think it's awesome. It's holding the supports. It does have upper resistance somewhere right around the $30 level, but I will say it looks pretty bullish, like it's going to break it. If anything, I think leaps on this are awesome. That way you have more timing just in case it does keep consolidating. Or I think that just getting shares is also an awesome way to go, because if you get shares, you can always average in if it keeps going down. But there's still a lot of growth potential out of some of these cruise lines. And man, I think that whenever we finally get that news this summer that the cruise lines can fully reopen and start to really go back out to sea, we're going to really see, I think, a pretty good gap up that day when that happens. And I'm not saying we're going to have a big 50% move or something, but I think we'll easily see like a pretty good 10 to 20% gap up on some great news with the cruise lines.
Very interesting. Then we have Vicky asking about GPS, which is up 6.5% today. It's actually looking pretty good. It's kind of been like a slow and steady stock over like the past couple months. They do have a really strong resistance though, right in this area, right around $35. They really struggled to break this level in, what was that, January of 2018. And they also bounced off this level pretty well in October of 2014. And then again, they struggled to break above that in October of 2012. So 35 is definitely a notable resistance level. Be on the lookout for that. But I think it looks pretty decent overall. Like I said, just be on the lookout for that resistance.
Yeah, for sure. And also, one thing to keep in mind is in the longer run, it looks like that they were going down for a few years. They are more of like one of those retail companies. I'm sure that they're doing more into online right now, which is probably why they're recovering up very nicely. But overall, just keep in mind they've had a lot of downwards movement from that retail market really getting hit. But I think that maybe they'll recover back up with the online stuff. But like Mike said, huge resistance here around these levels. So don't be surprised if it starts to go back down.
All right, and then we have KA asking about JMIA and Microsoft. So I like both of these stocks for the long term. I think JMIA is at a pretty decent level if you like this company for the long term. They're basically 50% off their highs back in like January. So I think this one's at a pretty good level actually. I like this setup, and I'm glad you brought this one up. And then Microsoft, I like them for the long term. I actually sold some puts on them. I didn't get assigned, so I really like cash secured puts on them. But even if you averaged into shares, I think that'll work pretty good too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Microsoft's always going to be good. It has been going down lately. Hopefully, it doesn't keep doing that. It was pretty bad to see. Early on this morning, it looked like some of these stocks were going to keep going down, but we saw them really start to recover back up, which is very nice to see. And it looks like they might just keep running up today as the day continues on. Honestly, really good moves above the technicals here on Microsoft on this 15-minute chart as well, coming up above the 100 SMA, and overall just pretty good movement out of some of these stocks that really dipped on these earnings plays. And it's just unfortunate that they dipped on earnings, but they did have good earnings. So over the next few months, I'm not particularly bearish in any of them because the earnings really indicated that they should be going up even though they went down.
All right, so then KA said that they have a 36 strike call option for May 7th. So that is really far out of the money for JMIA. That's really far out of the money. What is that, like 20% out of the money for this week? So you only have a like 3.5% chance of you have like a 4% chance of winning with JMIA because the options are so far out of the money. And then with Microsoft, you have, let's see. So you said the 300 strike call option for July, what did you say? July 16th, is it? Oh yeah, July
Yeah,
16th.
300 call July 16th.
All right, so you have about a 5% chance of winning on that one as well, or technically 4.5% chance. So the big thing is the options are so far out of the money where even if these stocks rise, there's a good chance you'll lose. If you want to increase your chances of winning, you just want to buy like better quality options, and to do that, you want to get as much time as possible, and you want to get closer to the money. So thank you for those comments. And then we have Oliver saying, Baba looks really nice. What's the next resistance? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think I got a pretty good resistance here around $240. And looking at the 15-minute chart, yeah, 240 is looking pretty good. Maybe around 238 to 239. I'm going to switch it. 238 and 239, somewhere right around there is going to be the next resistance. But it is looking very good intraday. I'd say that there is possibly an intraday resistance around 236 as well. Lots of chop coming up, but I think that overall it's looking pretty good here today. Pretty good recovery, up 2%, which is awesome to see. And some of these Chinese stocks have really done bad the past few months, and they look like they're going to start to recover back up. And I've heard that since Baba really paid off some some fines, I should say, with the Chinese government, that they're gonna be able to finally it's going to take the stress from the government off of them for the next few years now. But hopefully that happens. But on obviously that's just what I saw in some analyst review of the stock. So honestly, it could go either way. But hopefully that since they finally paid those fines, it'll get the government off their back and they can start to go back up a little bit.
All right, and then we have Keith saying WBA is looking strong. And then we have Joe saying, I think the cruise lines will fall off because they are already priced in. So always trust your own gut. But thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm still going to be watching AMD. Unfortunately, it's still down a lot today. It's holding these bottom levels like right here around $80. It's just holding right around there. I'm not sure if it keeps going down. It's going to be pretty unfortunate, but it will open up some good cash secured put opportunities. And what was good is that the IV went up today while the stock fell. So that's going to even make a better opportunity for us. But there's a pretty good support here around $80 overall. So really watch out for $80 here on AMD. It could hold this and start to go back up. But on the daily, it looks like a pretty bearish setup. But honestly, I want it to keep going down so I can keep getting those cash secure puts on it because AMD is an awesome stock for the longer run. And hopefully this chip shortage makes them go down so I can just grab more shares lower. And I might trade some puts to the downside if they break the low of day.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for joining. We had a great time this morning. We hope you guys have an amazing rest of your trading day. And we will see you guys with a new video